On tonight's Points West, we'll be bringing you what's sure to be a remarkable reunion. Paraglider Chris Williams was flying near the Alton Barnes White Horse near Pewsey on Valentine's Day when he hit a turbulent pocket of wind. His paraglider collapsed and he fell 70 feet. Chris from Fairford suffered a damaged lung and fractured pelvis. Today he'll be thanking two walkers who helped in his rescue.
Actually, just driving down here and seeing the White Horse for the first time gave me a little lump in the throat, because it's where I nearly died. Let's not mess about here. That's what nearly happened, and they, to a large extent, they saved my life. They kept me out of a wheelchair. So yes, there's going to be a lump in my throat. There's going to be a tear in my eye at some point today.
And Chris also wants to raise £3,000, which is the cost of the Wiltshire Air Ambulance, which airlifted him to hospital.
Our other headlines tonight: the emotional moment a paraglider meets the couple who rescued him after crashing in Wiltshire. First, a paraglider from Wiltshire who broke his neck in an accident has been reunited with the couple who probably saved his life. Chris Williams was gliding at the White Horse near Pewsey when a sudden gust of wind sent him crashing to the ground. Luckily, a couple who were out walking their dog came to the rescue. Laura Jones reports.
A pretty special reunion.
Can I have a hug?
6 weeks to the day since Chris, Judith and Richard's paths crossed in the most unexpected of ways, they're back together. And along with Chris's wife Marianne, it's pretty emotional. It had all happened back on Valentine's Day last month. Chris, a former RAF pilot and keen paraglider, was up in the air having taken off from the ridge just above the Alton Barnes White Horse near Pewsey. Chris and his friends had been flying all day, but it was during the fourth flight of the day when everything went wrong. His paraglider hit an unexpected pocket of turbulence which sent him crashing to the ground from more than 22 metres up and brought him to land just by the tail of the horse up there.
What I think happened is the air came over these hills and was then descending to hit the top of the wing, and that caused it to collapse, and I hit the ground. So between the start of the collapse and me hitting the ground was 3 seconds. So there was no time to react, to do anything. I don't remember anything about it because when I hit the ground I lost consciousness.
Luckily for Chris, Judith and Richard were dog walking and just happened to be passing at the right time.
What else can you do when someone falls out the sky behind you? You can't really walk off.
Initially when I saw him, he didn't look good. His breathing was very bad. He's obviously having a problem with breathing, so his airway was obstructed. So I didn't want to move him a lot because I knew there was a high risk of a spinal injury. So I just moved his jaw, his head and jaw very slightly so that the breathing was unobstructed.
I could see that the parachute wing was still fully inflated and the wind was getting into it. So the last thing we wanted him to be dragged along. So basically I just bundled it up as I was calling for the ambulance.
Chris suffered catastrophic injuries in the crash, breaking his neck and pelvis and collapsing a lung. He wants to thank everyone who helped, including the Wiltshire Air Ambulance, which was on the ground just 10 minutes after being called.
They need £11,000 a day to keep running. That's £4 million a year just to keep that helicopter running. So about £3,000 per rescue. So I decided it would be a good idea to try and raise £3,000 to pay for my ticket.
Chris is on the mend, but paragliding is certainly off the menu for the time being at least. A very lucky escape, thanks in part to his new friends. Laura Jones, BBC Points West, Alton Barnes.
Yes, no more paragliding, I think, Chris, and thank goodness that couple were there and looked after you so wonderfully.